I do like Phish. You just guys made me talk about the most ridiculous thing ever.
We got you in deep.
Because I often don't get, to play with material as insane as this Gamehendge, which is not even the real name, Shy. Why don't you just give us the real name? Do you think we couldn't handle the real title?
Baby
Trey's term paper. Also, what kind of thesis was this? Was he doing a doctorate? What do you mean a thesis? Wasn't he doing his BA? That I'm pretty sure I think I finished his BA. Like, when was he writing a thesis? I find the whole thing completely ridiculous.
Hi there, and here we are. Welcome to the Friday Night Movie Podcast, where I get together with my sisters once a week to talk about all sorts of fun stuff that we would have talked about growing up, either driving back from the movies with our parents or around the dinner table. Mostly it's them making fun of me, which there will be a lot of that today because we have a really cool guest today who shares my love of the band Phish. And my sisters, well, I'm going to use my opening spot here to say love the band too. In fact, they can't live without that band. They enjoy making fun of me for my love of the band.
It's an exaggeration, and you know it.
But that's okay. I'm only not interrupting so you can get through your intro, and I'm being polite.
And that makes it really hard to choose right now which sister I'm going to go to first. But I'll go with Becky for being less rude. How are you, Beck?
I'm great. I just ate a tamale before we sat down, and as I was eating it, I was imagining Mom getting really annoyed with the fact that I was calling it a tamale and not a tamale, as she would no doubtably.
I would like to
correct you.
I would like to do an online glossary of Mom's pronunciations of things. Particularly,
well, the other day, what was it? Becky, sorry to interrupt you, Shy.
Let's be clear.
Buffet.
She used the word
like Phoebe
buffet. Yeah, she used the word
buffet, but she loves to say Phoebe buffet.
And now my children walk around my house because we were serving a dinner buffet style, and the older child walks in and goes, "Let's go to the buffet." Allie looks at me like, "Your mother did
Amazing.
this." Mm-hmm. Lily, how are you doing?
I'm good. Did a transatlantic flight less than 48 hours ago with a 2-year-old, who had gastroenteritis on the plane.
And your amazing babysitter for the child. Let's be clear. It's not like you were alone with a serial killer being transferred from prison.
I'm not saying that I was alone. But what I am saying was that my son had gastroenteritis on the flight. And as much as it's amazing to have a babysitter, out of the two of us, there's only one that is cleaning up the massive disaster that was. Okay. So while I had someone to be like, here, hold my backpack for a second, you're right. The same time, it was just me in that diaper alone in that tiny airplane bathroom with a baby. So it was an adventurous trip.
But most important to me is always, what movies did you watch on the plane or shows?
Nothing, because I mentioned the gastro, so there wasn't time.
I feel like you have to get it. I feel like you have to get it together. You have to raise your game.
There was a lot of wrangling of baby, but I did listen to the podcast that you recommended, the Talent Chat Show.
Oh, cool.
The
Talent Crush Chat Show. That show is really fun.
Yeah, Talent Crush Chat Show.
And they read your question on the air. How cool is that?
They did. That was great. So I was able to listen to that, and I think I watched Goldberg's. Look, I didn't have emotional space for a lot of new things. I was like, I need to just go with what I know is good. Yep. I need, the Goldbergs make me laugh in between diaper changes. I just needed to get through that flight.
Shai, update on my flight. I watched like 5 episodes of Chuck, so I'm in deep.
Oh, good. We're gonna get to that then. That's cool. I'm excited. And Shai, how are you doing?
How are you?
How is Shai doing,
brother?
Yeah. I am really good. I've had some really cool things happen lately, but most recently, last night, Allie and I went to see this amazing comedian, Erica Rhodes, who I had mentioned last week on the show, And over the past week, we had this really fun social media exchange, which culminated in me drawing a picture that she and the venue seemed to really like. And I brought her a print, and she was really cool about taking the print and chatting with Allie and me after the show. But she's really, really funny. And I recommend folks check out her stuff. She was really cool. That was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But enough about me. Let's go on to our guest, another person that I have met through the world of the internet, and I guess in some ways related to art, because this person, Jacqui Kaplan, who is an assistant editor and editor in Hollywood, real Hollywood, I got to know through the fact that she and I share a mutual love of the band Phish, and she was probably the first person ever to say something nice about one of my animations online that wasn't somebody I already knew. And that's the problem with me and anyone in my family. If we're like animals, if you feed us, that's it. You're stuck with us. Just a little bit of love to that ego, and that's it. We're going to be, yours forever. And so she was gracious enough to join us on the podcast today, and that's Jacqui. So Jacqui Kaplan, she's worked on some amazing shows that we love. Superstore, Life in Pieces, which is a new addition to my top shows. I absolutely am in love with that show. Powerless, which, gone too soon. I loved that show. Stand Against Evil.
You did. You got on. You were into that show like from the ground running. Like I remember when as soon as that pilot came on, you were super into it, and it was great. It was hilarious. And I remember you being very sad when they canceled it.
It was a bummer. And there's lost episodes that no one's seen. To me, that show was unfairly stabbed in the face. And speaking of stabbing, another show that I am hugely into, Stand Against Evil, is another show that you've worked on and co-edited episodes. So we're going to ask you about that. But most importantly, to bring it back, a huge, huge Phish fan. And we just discovered in our pre-show conversation we've been to at least one of the same shows, maybe more. We don't know yet. So Jacqui, welcome to the family.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited to be here. This is fun.
Cool. Thank you. So you're now with the three of us, and we're going to pepper you with questions. Some will make sense, some will make less sense. And then you'll join us for all of the rest of the shenanigans of the program. So
yes,
are you
pepper
ready?
away. I am ready.
Okay, so first of all, you've built up the suspense with me in particular. The difference, what is an assistant editor, and what is the difference between that and other editing functions in the movie and television world?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are familiar with what an editor does. An editor takes the footage that they shoot on set or wherever they are, and they are going to cut that together into the film or the show that you watch. Every time there's a camera angle change, that is a decision that the editor has made. And a long time ago, they used to do that on actual film with, you had to cut the film and splice it together. And I'm too young to have experienced that, but everything's done digitally now. And an assistant editor differs from an editor because we're basically in charge of any media coming in and out of the computers. So we bring the media in once it's shot, and we prepare it for the editor. Stuff? Yeah. So usually there's a lab that processes everything, but we still have to bring it into the computers on our end, organize it in a certain way, basically give the editor any support or anything they need to get their job done. And at the end, we have to export the sequences into QuickTimes for producers to view and the studio to view. And we'll do other things along the way, too, like we do like rough sound effects work, or sometimes we'll help with scoring, like doing music passes in a show or something like that. And just, general support, like it's all very computer-based. Everything in and out of the computer, but whatever our editor needs, we usually work on a one-to-one basis in television. So I work with a particular editor on my show, and I guess that's kind of the gist of it.
So you're like a superhero team. Are you willing to talk about who the person you work with a lot is?
Oh, well, right now I've been working with an editor named Colin. He's great. This is our first show together. Before him, I worked with another editor, a really good friend, Stephen Lang. He's worked on a lot of wonderful shows. And so it depends, it's sometimes you stick with an editor for a really long time. Sometimes you work with them for a show and then you kind of get out of sync with their schedule, since most of us, basically anybody that's working in episodic television is working freelance. So we work show to show. And as you know from watching shows, there's a season of television and it's not year round. So once the show is over, you go and you look for another job. And sometimes you travel with the same editor or assistant editor and different coworkers, or sometimes you split up because you get different job opportunities or want to take different amounts of time off between jobs. So there's always like a rotating different coworkers that you end up working
Sounds
with.
a lot like a Fast and the Furious movie, like assembling the squad. Like they find you, like they're like, oh, bring in that assistant editor, and then there'll be the shot of you like working on a car somewhere or doing a bank heist. Oh, got a call, gotta go. So you work on a few shows that we love, like I mentioned. I am particularly into Stand Against Evil because I love horror comedy, and I've done a bunch of little animations for that show as well, or not four because they asked me, for fun.
The animations.
The Stanimations.
That's such a good name.
Thank you. Well, the Fanimation was the Phish one, right? So I'm just going to keep working that pun until there's nothing left. And
we'll do animations for shows when you have a good name for them.
There you go. That's a good idea. And that show also features, to reference the term talent crush from the other podcast we were talking about, Janet Varney, who we had the pleasure of meeting last weekend. Was it last weekend we met her? Our whole family met her, who was just amazing. She plays Evie on that show.
Cool. Yeah, she's so good.
So tell us about working on Stand Against Evil. What's that like? And is there something different that goes into the editing when you're doing something that is that genre of comedy and horror, which for me, when I look at that, and I was just rewatching one of the episodes that you co-edited, the episode Through Evie's Eyes, or for the one with the ring, with the ring.
Oh, with the old woman.
Yeah, the one with the ring and the old woman.
Yeah.
And there are different camera angles and scenes where you're walking this line between funny and scary and dark and funny. And I was I don't know anything about editing, but I was like, there must be editing decisions that make something like this work so well.
Yeah, that was a really fun show to work on because I'm actually not a horror fan. I never got into it. I think I'm mostly just really afraid of it. But then the horror comedy aspect was interesting because I never really understood, like, how can something be scary and funny? But I found it really fun to work on because I feel like maybe I just had such a, like, neutral palette to work on the show with, like no expectations or anything. And it was fun to be able to do things like do the sound design for a horror film, and, which is such a different type of sound design than like a comedy where there's really not much going on in the sound effects world. So being able to like build those like soundscapes per se, and then music is so important in horror films. And then you have to balance it with the comedy. And there's a lot of visual effects because you do a lot of green screen or there's a lot of like puppet type things too. So it was a very different show for me to work on, which I think is good to have. You work in horror and you work in drama and comedy and you bounce around and you get different experience from different types of shows.
That's really cool. And it must be cool to work on a show with a cult following. That must be special.
Yeah, that is fun. It is like, I don't remember what show. I think it might have been when I was working on Powerless that I discovered that people go online and talk about shows that they like. And it's like, well, obviously this happens. Why wouldn't this happen? I wish that I knew earlier. So it's really fun to like sneak on and see what people are saying and maybe like comment secretly and nobody knows that you worked on the show.
So we should start doing that with our cousins about this podcast, right, Lil and Becky?
Yeah.
So Becky, you're in Lily, fire away.
If I could ask Jacqui a question that I feel like is on everybody's mind.
Wait, you've been told repeatedly, no more asking me to ask questions. We got Jacqui, we got a specific complaint 2 weeks ago that we were too polite around each other during the guests. So Lily, just ask. Be bold.
Yeah, just ask.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you something that I feel like is on all our listeners' minds. Is what is John C. McKinley like?
So I only met him once because they shoot in, I think, Georgia.
Well, yes, this was another. Sorry, my other question was: do you actually do you actually get to see them shoot, or is this something that's a bit separate from the work you do? That was actually the question.
It's a great question. It depends on the show. So Stand Against Evil, we were working in Santa Monica, Los Angeles, and they were shooting, I think it was Georgia. So we were totally removed from production. And I met John once when he came over to, I don't remember if it was to watch something. So it was really nice to meet him. We didn't really talk much or anything, but that's very different from the current show I'm on, Life in Pieces, where they shoot in Los Angeles on the Fox studio lot, and that's where we work too, and everybody is there. So I don't see them every day. I don't have like a reason to go to set, but sometimes I'll walk over just to watch or say hi or see what's going on, and that's really nice because you definitely feel more involved when everybody's there and you see, you know, all the different crew members in their work.
I mean, I would imagine that like that makes sense. It would be like, you know, comparing it to sports, I guess. It would be like the difference between getting to be at the game and doing other work that like you're a bit removed from it, and, you know, being near the players. But in technically, does it not influence your work that you actually do? Like, because I would imagine automatically, it'd be so much easier if you could actually see them, be up close and see them acting and be part of it. But it probably, I guess, one thing has nothing to do with the other.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily make a difference. Whatever they shoot on a certain day will be processed overnight by the lab, and that lab will be local to wherever they're shooting, unless, you know, you happen to be working on a film that they're shooting in some remote location. Then there's going to be other logistics. But, you know, we'll get the footage, which we call dailies, the day after they shoot it. And so it doesn't really matter if they're shooting on the lot with us or if they're shooting in another state. It's pretty seamless.
I will say that, like, it's pretty cool that, you know, that Jacqui is there when they're, so like, I know, at least for film, right? Maybe it's more like popular, people realize that there's one whole part that they film, and the acting is super important and the writing is super important, but none of that matters unless it's put together properly. And Shy, you know that from recording music, and Becky, obviously, you know that from being in, you know, the industry. And then even just from a writing perspective, it can be good, but it still needs to be edited always, right? And so like, it's a crucial part of it coming out, and the timing. You know what I mean? Like, especially in horror comedy.
Yeah, in comedy, timing is so important.
It's that, all of that, like, makes it really important in terms of, like, how it's appreciated at the final end by the audience. And then I guess I never thought about the fact that you wouldn't necessarily need to be there to see it being performed or recorded, to then having to, like, get all this information on your computer and be like, okay, now make this super funny. So it's pretty impressive.
Wait.
It is always nice when they're shooting in town or shooting nearby. I feel like it just facilitates relationships. And if you have like a request, like you need an actor to say a line that wasn't previously recorded, it was added. We call that ADR. So there are benefits to shooting locally. Things are just like a little bit more easier in my opinion, but obviously tons of shows and films shoot out of town or out of country, and it all comes together just fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you for working on these shows that we love and making the fun.
I'm so excited that you guys like so many of the shows I worked on. It is all too common that somebody says, "What show are you working on?" And I tell them, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
That's hilarious.
So
not with this crowd.
We watch an enormous amount of television in this family. So let's talk about Phish, because I lured you here with the idea that we talk about Phish. Band I've been into. I remember first listening to them in Jewish summer camp in Bunk 8 at the camp I went to, and the counselors put on Reba. It was the first Phish song I ever
Coolest counselors ever.
Yeah, but pretty typical for Jewish summer camp counselors of the early 90s. That's all they did on there.
I was 11 at camp when I got my first cassette, like, tape from one of the counselors, and there was a Phish song on it, and I remember being like, what in God's name is this?
It
wasn't Paula Abdul at that time. I was just like not having it. I did not appreciate Phish till much later.
Jacqui, when did you get into them?
I listened to a small amount of them in high school because one of my older brothers was a really big fan. But I didn't really get into it. I didn't know much of their catalog until much, much later. I went to my first show August 5th, 2013 at the Hollywood Bowl. I think that kind of makes me a noob.
Oh,
but
wow.
I went.
You've probably been to more than me, though, at this point, based on your knowledge. And
it's possible. I feel like I've been making up for lost time ever since.
It makes me so happy that someone can get into them in 2013 and be into them as much as you are. So you went to the So you went to that Hollywood Bowl in 2013 that I believe is that the one that Harris Whittles went to? Rest in peace. You ever listen to that podcast, Analyze Phish?
Yeah, that's a great. It's so funny and good and relatable. I think we've all had those moments when we're trying to get a friend to listen to Phish and they're just not getting it at all.
And I think that's the episode where he and Scott Aukerman and a bunch of people all went to the Hollywood Bowl together.
Yeah, I think it is. There was another Hollywood Bowl show, I think 1 or 2 years earlier, but I'm pretty sure that this show is on that podcast.
That was the summer one of my kids was born that summer, and that was the summer where every night, and I still tell her the story, my younger one, every night I would go and feed her because I did help with the feeding, and we'd go at whatever o'clock in the morning, and the show would load up on the Phish live Phish app, particularly on the West Coast shows, and I would put the music on and I would sit there and fall asleep with her on my chest, feeding her, listening to that whole summer tour. And to this day, when I sit with her in the chair in her room and I asked her, I'm like, what did we do when you were little? And she's like, I slept on your chest and we listened to Phish songs. And that was the 2013 tour.
Oh, it's actually such a cute story.
So that tour, I have a lot of affection for it. That was an amazing tour. Okay, so now we're going to bring it back to movies. We're going to merge the worlds of Phish and movies together. We invented a game. Not invented a game. We named a game as best we could.
We are the inventors of this game. We created it. No one else has ever heard of it before or tried to play anything similar ever in all existence of all time.
So we're
Copyrighted.
we're calling it
Trademarked, copywritten.
Cast Away. Not Cast Away, because I don't like that movie.
It's cast, comma, away.
Or
no, it's cast,
ellipsis,
dot.
Ellipsis,
And
away.
here's how I would pronounce it. Can I please pronounce it?
Yes.
Cast away.
Okay.
That's why there's a comma, not an ellipse.
I learned grammar in Canada.
Maybe cast away.
And we're gonna cast
up and away.
Maybe it's away? Question mark.
Cast away. Yeah, I feel like that could be a good one too.
we're going to cast a fictitious movie, and I suspect Phish fans for generations have been playing this game, which is. I guess we can back it up, and Jackie helped me describe this, but Trey Anastasio, the lead guitarist and principal writer for Phish, not the only writer for Phish, while in college, wrote his college thesis as a musical piece, kind of like a rock opera, although it has a lot of jazz in it. And it is called The Man Who Stepped Into Yesterday.
And a lot of keyboard. There's a lot of keyboard. Like maybe a bit too much.
Don't say that like it's a complaint.
Like after song number 5, I was like, I've had enough keyboard.
Oh, man.
So he created this story, The Man Who Stepped Into Yesterday, which has been a huge part of Phish lore. Many of the great Phish songs that you hear live are from that opus. But only on a few occasions have they actually performed it with the narration.
Mm-hmm. In its entirety.
And in its entirety. So that is the dragon.
That is a real shame to hear. That is
the dragon that I would say at the core, the reason why, and no one can really explain this, I think why all Phish fans keep going every night is because that night might be the night where they play all of Gamehendge.
Mm-hmm. You can't miss a show, especially not a Sunday show, but you just never know what they're going to pull out.
There you go. And so I had my sisters, as part of this, listen to the actual bootleg recording from the mid-'80s.
Are you guys aware of how niche this is? Like, how very specific it is to it.
There's a lot.
I think that's fair to say that there are a lot of fans. Now, I want to know the percentage of the ones that are going as deep as this work of quote unquote art.
I honestly think most of them. I think we're a pretty crazy bunch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you think most Phish fans are fully aware of this bootleg thesis?
Oh yeah, I think
absolutely.
I think many.
This is not
it.
just like a small group amongst Phish fans.
No. This was. I remember hearing about this at summer camp. Let's say if I first heard of Phish in 1992, by 1994, I was fully versed in the full story, and I hadn't even heard the whole rock opera yet.
So wait, Shai, when was your first show again?
So my first show was 97. Was December 30th, 1997, and I saw them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I saw them 97, 98 twice, 99, and then didn't see them again until they got back together after they broke up. So, Lily, I asked you to try to review the plot of this. Can you please just recap for us what you discerned as the plot of this story?
The plot is that somebody that you guys like wrote a term paper
the plot
many years ago.
Of the story.
No, this is the plot. Somebody that is a famous musician who's very respectable, who has a very famous group among certain people of a certain age, I've discovered, wrote a term paper a long time ago. And then you guys, I guess secretly released. Clearly, he's never released it as like a thing. This is not a thing, is what I've decided. Because if it was a thing, there'd be like an actual way to listen to it. Whatever you sent me, some of those recorded in our basement.
Well, I think that's part of the folklore.
Yeah,
I guess it is now, and now it's too late because now he can't do anything about it. But like, I feel like back then, if this was something that was supposed to be a thing, it would have perhaps, I don't know, taken more of a professional life.
Okay, here's what it's about.
Thank you, Becky.
There's a bunch of lizards living in the forest.
Also,
and then a bad guy
I need to
shows
take
up.
issue with that.
And
he could not come up with a better name than lizards for these group of people.
But they weren't.
They are lizards.
Are they actual lizards? This has always been a question for me.
We don't know. That's
no, I think they're people that are called the lizards. I don't think they're actual lizards. Because then, anyway, so there's a bunch of people called the lizards living
or
in
they are
forest.
lizards.
Or slash they are lizards.
That's always what I
living in the
pictured.
forest. And then a guy comes in pretending to be like some nice, humble guy, like, oh, like maybe I'm just like a wandering lost soul. Will you take me in and take care of me? And then he infiltrates and he overthrows their power and he becomes an evil ruler. And then the lizards have to rise up against him. And that's about as far as I got.
I got that he like steals their instruction manual. No, he takes it to somebody else's house. Keeps it for himself. Nobody else knows how to read the instructions anymore. Because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then he becomes powerful to them. Then we cut to a guy who's shaving in the bathroom, notices a door in his house that was never there before. He gets Narnia'd back to where these lizards or some kind of people.
I didn't really listen to the whole thing.
Okay, you
no,
have.
It's like in the first 5 minutes of listening to this thing comes out, the story, but it's so hard to hear. Like, it's like, this is not a proper vehicle to understand a story of anything, of any sort. These people are obviously
Narnia to the lizard people, and then he overthrows the bad guy?
Then his whole thing is that he's supposed to try and help the lizards or lizard people to get the instruction manual back so that they can control their own people and kick out Wilson, the bad guy, who, it's interesting that you say that he seemed like super nice, but I feel like I get the impression that you're trying to say that he was like tricking them. I feel like he showed up and was like, you guys can't live without this book, and he just takes it. I'm not really sure his motivation. The point is that I can't tell who wins.
Wait, I think you guys have done a great job setting up the story. Now we're going to cast away.
I have some good ideas.
Becky, all right. I was going to put Jackie on the spot, but go for it, Beck. This is great.
Okay, so I think Wilson obviously has to be played by Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, wow.
Not even a question.
Oh, so I had Ian McShane.
No. It's Daniel Day-Lewis. Then, I don't really know who the other characters are, but I'm imagining like a ragtag group of lizards. And I've only been able to cast 2 of them so far, but 100% have to be played by Steve Buscemi teamed up with Issa Rae. I feel like they're the lizard people.
Yeah, that's a broad selection.
But I think that's the point, because like anyone could be a lizard, and how funny would they be together being like the lizards, Steve Buscemi and Issa Rae? I feel like that's like a buddy comedy waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And then I forgot about the transporter guy who like goes back in time, but
you mean the main character?
He's like the main character of the story.
I thought Wilson was.
Well, he's just the bad guy.
Well, then obviously, if it's the main
it
character,
doesn't really
if it's
matter.
the main character, I obviously want Reese Witherspoon to play it. So there we go.
So you're doing a gender swap. Okay. All right. That's
Yeah.
cool. All right. Jackie, over to you. So Wilson is the villain. Daniel Day-Lewis is, or I put in Ian McShane, but do you have
Yeah, I really like both of your suggestions. I put down a couple. First of all, obviously he's like the most evil person to exist. And the scariest person that I can think of when I think of television, I don't know if you guys ever watched Oz, but that show has permanently changed my opinion about J.K. Simmons. He is the scariest person ever. So, if you haven't seen it, he plays this really terrifying white supremacist.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a few episodes.
Character. Or I thought another person who could do a great Wilson would be Bryan Cranston.
Oh, wow. Those are also really
He can
good.
do anything.
He can do anything. And he could definitely do Evil King.
For sure.
So
I agree with you on that.
So what's funny is that as I was coming up with potential Aaron Wolf's, what's his name? The guy who just J.K. Simmons was actually someone. So as one of the good guys who kind of gets corrupted, I had J.K. Simmons. So I'm glad we both went to the J.K. Simmons zone. Simmons zone. All right, Colonel Forbin. This is Colonel Forbin. He's the main character.
There's only one person who can play him.
Oh, that's the main character. That's
Reese Witherspoon.
Besides, I don't know where I did not choose Reese Witherspoon.
Really? I just
Guys, there's only one person that could play him. It's David Krumholtz. It has to be David Krumholtz.
David Krumholtz.
In fact, he's the only person I casted in this thing because, to be honest, I was like, it's clearly him, and I literally cannot spend another second of my life on this thing. So,
Jackie, do you know who David Krumholtz is?
He's from Numbers.
I don't think I do.
Yes, you do. You've seen him everywhere. He plays the nerdy brother on Numbers. He's in 10 Things I Hate About You as the nerdy
I love
Shakespeare
him.
guy. They gets with the
totally
Shakespeare
watch
girl.
him.
Yeah, he's in everything.
I'm looking him up now, and
buy him as a
Once you see his
former
face,
military
you'll
colonel? Well, anyways, okay. I had more of like
But whoever this thing has to be some kind of like Nebuchadnezzar Jew. There's no way I ever imagined anybody else in this character.
that's not the direction I went, but I'll definitely take your suggestion.
I think
Also, I thought Colonel was his nickname. I don't actually believe this character was ever in the military.
okay. So I bet Jackie and I went a little because Colonel Forbin's sort of an icon of bravery for me. I went a little bit more chiseled, but Jackie, you go first.
Okay, so I feel like for most of these I put two ideas. Maybe I was second guessing myself, but I put Tom Hardy.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, you went a very different direction.
Wow, it's very Lily. That's a very. I feel like what's happening right
Jack
now.
is taking this more seriously.
I'm a very serious person.
But I don't understand why everyone's having a hard time with Reese Witherspoon in that role. I feel like
if it could
everything
be
you're
Tom Hardy, it
describing-
could be her. Yeah, for sure.
I'm open to bending gender boundaries, but also, I mean, Teela is the beautiful woman he falls in love with, and it's not like we can't have two women, but this is just the story is that
I love
Forbin
the
is
idea
supposed
of
to be a
story.
guy.
Okay, so I feel like if it's two women, I want Reese Witherspoon and Tracy Ellis Ross. Those are going to be my faves. They can switch out who wants to play which role, but I love those two.
Okay. All
I
right.
feel like now Tracy Ellis should definitely be Corbin Dallas.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Corbin?
Colonel
I don't
Forbin.
know, Shy. This thing is the worst. I don't know how else to tell
It's the
you.
best. It's so good.
Okay, so
It is ridiculous.
I feel like, Jackie, we might now, you and I, be coming up with a podcast in itself, which is just getting together with Phish
You need to
fans
leave Becky and I at the door here
And
just
ma-
run
and-
free, the two of you.
and mapping out the Gamehendge television universe and like coming up.
You
So-
should make the game. You should option it and do the book series, the board game, the video game. You guys would have like a 10 fans.
My dream, my dream, Jackie, is to one day animate this whole thing. But that would
you
take-
should definitely do it.
Wait,
People
you
would
should
love
quit your job. Quit your job. Just do this.
Yeah, clearly this is a winning idea because,
Okay.
Because
they've
nobody's
never
made
had
it
to
into
re-record.
anything
All right.
since he recorded it. This is something I find amazing. If this was a thing, it would have become something. But like,
I'm laughing so
it's
hard,
just
I'm crying.
stayed in bootleg lore.
But that's what everybody loves about it too. It's not,
It
it's
has
like
Game of Thrones that no one's made it into a multi-million-dollar television show. It's just
No,
like
it's just
staying
like-
innocent.
yeah, it's just like being more of a word of mouth thing and not, top 40 hits is just part of what makes it so wonderful.
And there are a few things that aren't like optioned into a multiple, and this is something we've complained about there, right? Like, look at what's happening to Star Wars, and I love Star Wars, but right now we're about to get like Star Wars' expanded universe is getting so complicated that I can't follow it anymore. This thing has stayed somewhat pure for 30 years. 30
yeah,
and it wouldn't be because the story makes no sense. Like, that's not the
I
reason.
think the story makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
So let's cast.
Okay, but neither one of you who loves this was able to tell us what the main characters are of this people. Are they actual lizards or are they people? So that's not the reason. This is not the reason it's not famous.
So we're gonna quickly cast 3 more characters. And
are we though?
Yeah.
There's 3 more characters.
At least cast Teela.
Yeah, we gotta. There's way more characters, but there's 3 that I've casted. That we're gonna go with. First, we got to talk about Teela. Who did you have as Teela? She is the beautiful femme fatale of the story.
Mm-hmm. So I've been watching Peaky Blinders, and I thought that the girl who plays Grace, so that's Annabelle Wallis, would make a really good Teela because she's so beautiful and she just seems to have that like somewhat like magical innocent beauty or something. So that's who I put. Well,
I didn't know who she was till I Googled her while you were talking, and that is some magical beauty you got happening there for sure. Wow. That's a pretty good choice. I was going to go because I really love Thor, the new Thor movie, and to me, I wanted the like warrior badass kind of feel, and Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a movie.
She's pretty great, yeah.
Okay, quickly.
Nice, I like that.
All right, rapid fire. Rutherford the Brave. He's the brave knight who never seemed that bright to me. I wanted The Rock or John Cena in there. I wanted like a funny wrestler.
Oh, okay. I went more of just like a very brave person, not so much the comedy aspect. So I put maybe either Oscar Isaac or Idris Elba.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, you guys, but I just love all the people you're naming.
Yeah, great choices. If you can get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they made a movie with all these people, it would probably be great.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
They'll all be fun.
Okay. We're really good at casting because we're just picking the best people ever for everything.
All right.
Exactly.
All right. I will spare the listeners any further going down going down this rabbit hole, and let's get back into regular television shows. We did some research going into this as to some of Jacqui's favorite shows, some of which we hadn't seen before, some of which were shows that we both liked a lot. And one of them is a show we've actually been teasing that we would talk about for a really long time, but I think it's finally just going to blow the lid off this, and that is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. But we're going to do a little bit of comparing of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel to another show about comedy, which is Crashing on HBO, which I saw in preparation for this. Who would
I don't think they're comparable, but sure.
Well, I think they're
I actually think that's a great comparison because it is about two wannabe stand-up comics and their experience in the first, or in that time in their career, the early career.
All right, so Miss Maisel, who? Becky, you've been buying Miss Maisel for a long time. Why do you love it?
I bought it. I love it. I love how quick the dialogue is and how fun it is, and you really have to be listening and on point to get the jokes. I think it asks, quite a bit of the audience to really listen. And I know that, one of the things you've criticized is the caricature of Jewishness, but I think actually to me, it feels more like a play. I don't see it as a caricature. I see it as a type of, drama or melodrama, and something much more similar to if I was going to the theater. So I really enjoy it. I think more of a caricature of Jewishness is something seen on Transparent versus this is melodramatic. And so I really, really enjoy it. And then her character, you really see someone who goes through growth and character development, but not in, I think, the traditional way that we like in our family. We like to see really great changes and strides. And I think what's special about Maisel, about Midge, is that she knows who she is, and she is really confident. And in a lot of ways, she doesn't have to actually change. What she needs to do is peel away the bullshit, peel away the all the noise around her so she can continue to be who she really is.
I think that's a really good point, because from the minute that show starts, she's a badass.
Yeah.
And she also never takes care of her kids, which I find amazing. Like, that doesn't change at all. She doesn't become a better mom. She just that's on like a side note. And I think you're right.
That's what I liked about it.
All right, over to Jacqui, and then I'll get pummeled by you guys because I'm not that into the show.
I know you're not. I know, and you're not the only one. I know other people that didn't love it the way everybody else loves it.
I really liked the show. I loved how whimsical it was. Like, I felt it reminded me of Hugo or something like that a lot.
Oh, and I love Hugo.
I really didn't know what to expect.
The movie with the robot kid? Oh, don't go. Let's not go there.
Is he a robot?
The robot in Hugo, the Scorsese movie?
In the train that takes place in the train station.
Yeah, there's a robot in the movie.
There's a robot in that movie?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The whole movie, they're building that robot. Right.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that movie, but for many other reasons we can.
Anyways, keep going, Jacqui.
But I just find it interesting that you compared the two. But sure.
Well, just because they're both very whimsical, and I like that. I think that may be a turnoff for some people, but I really liked it, and I didn't know what to expect going in. I thought it was really funny, and I watched that back to back with Crashing without realizing that they were two comedy shows. So I did really have that comparison of comparing these two comedy shows, which otherwise are so different.
All right. So my issue with the show, I love Alex Bornstein's character. That is the character I love, and I love her. I've always loved her since she was in Mad TV. That's I forget the name. Is it Susie? Is that the name of the character? Who's the manager?
Susie.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I just want to watch the spinoff about her being awesome. My problem with Midge, and I hope this isn't like I hope this doesn't make me like a failing of a person, but I don't like her.
It might.
I don't like her. Like, I think that, I don't like her.
I don't think she's that likable. I don't think that's a weird thing to say.
Okay. And then if it's okay to not like her, that's part of it. Sometimes I like to like my main characters.
I just, as a sidebar, several people have compared her to me. So what do you really think?
Oh no, I believe me, I heard that in your validation of this show. I was like, all right, Becky sees herself in this. No wonder she likes it.
All right, there, Crazy Heart, take it down a notch.
Crazy.
Okay. That's a story for a different time.
Okay.
We'll get into that bone.
But I don't like her, but your description of the show as a play and Jackie's description of it as whimsical helps me understand what it's offering a lot more. I didn't really know what it was promising me. And when you put it in...
I think there's sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to say, when you put it in that context, it fits a little bit more for me.
Right, because I think where Jackie, although the Hugo thing threw me off because I have so many issues with that movie. Jackie and I, we can get together another time and talk about it.
Okay.
But I do think that there is that touching on that whimsicalness that Shy, you brought it up, was like when you and I had a really fun experience. I was watching the show. I was about halfway through and I was loving it. Then I talked to Shy and I was like, oh man, I don't like this show anymore. You kind of
don't
took it down
to his poisonous words. It's wonderful. And you just got to make it through to the end.
Right, and I think that I really listened to what Shai was saying, and it's okay. He poked a bit of a hole in it, and that's fine. It kind of made me see it from a more critical eye. But one of the things that Shai had said was, I don't really like shows like the Mad Men type shows where it's clearly just about the wardrobe. And the funny thing is that I never got into Mad Men, and I do find shows that are over stylized. Just to me, it becomes more about that.
I think this has substance. This
right,
style.
And I think that. That's a good point. That yes, it's very over stylized, almost to the point of whimsical, and then you have the part where that over stylization becomes more as if you're watching a play, and it's not without substance.
Say no to Tony Shalhoub.
So everyone,
exactly.
I love Tony Shalhoub.
They're going head to head. Those are some great scenes.
No, those are great scenes, and I think that it does when you do watch it all the way through. The character, the very specific type of character development of the main character is not often seen, where she doesn't, I don't think she's that likable. I actually don't, again, she's never with her children, doesn't give a shit about her children, which I find just like a weird thing.
She's like the Ross of that show. Where are the kids?
Right. And she's just like, yeah, whatever. Somebody else take care of my kids. And like she's acting.
That doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me at all. It's not that it bothers me.
I just think it's hilarious that she's just like, this is normal at this time. If you have money, you don't really need to take care of your kids. And I was talking to somebody else about it, and I was like, she's like on Downton Abbey when they bring them the kids for 5 minutes. They like say hi to them and then they leave, and that's like good parenting. And I just find it interesting that that's woven into the show. But her making it and like having this goal and how it is not, she's not allowed to have it, and then finds a way to get it. I just find all of that really fascinating. And there are very few female driven shows like this, and that has to be said, that there really aren't, with a character that is kind of complex in the way that she is, and who's faulted. Like, she definitely has issues. Again, I don't find her that likable, but I found it a very good show. Funny enough, comparing it to Crashing, I don't find him that likable either, though I like the show. So,
I really liked season 1 of Crashing, but I couldn't get into or stay into season 2 because
really.
Season
2 was better. I thought it was really.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a try again. I think what happened was I was in like a television rut. I was in like a TV watching rut, and I wasn't very enthusiastic about anything at that time. So I think that could have been what was holding me back. But based on, I found season 1 to be quite funny.
So Jacqui, what made you? What makes you like Crashing, and why season 2 over season 1? I am stuck on episode 2. So,
no.
Well, I mean, there's a lot been going on, but for me, it's this weird thing where Louis, to me, and we all know all the creepy stuff that's come out about Louis C.K., did the like depressing life of a comic thing on such a high level of art, and then life kind of imitated art, imitating life, imitated art, that other versions of that are a little bit it's hard for me to connect to, and I love stuff about comedians and comedy. So that's, for me, that's where I'm at with it, but I haven't made like a big judgment on it. But between that and Maisel, at least Maisel, even though I didn't like love it, felt fresh and weird and different.
That's a good point about Louis. I never watched Louis, so I don't have that point of reference, but I just thought it was really, I mean, I agree that I don't love Pete Holmes as a main character. He's kind of like really weird. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but I just think the show is funny, and I like having all the guest comedians on. And I did listen to an interview podcast he did, I think it was on Fresh Air, and he talked about how the show compares to his real life, which I thought interesting.
That's what I was going to say. That's what actually made me like the show more. I had already started watching it, then read a fascinating interview with him, then I liked it more after getting to watch it, because it's really incredible how much that is his actual story. He did catch his wife cheating and had married young and like completely had nothing from one second to the next, and relied on all these people that he knew to sleep on their couches and get into the business. And I was like, oh wait, wow, that's like super raw.
Shy, the reason why I think you're gonna have a hard time with it, which is where I got stuck in season 2, is that his whole character is that what separates him is that he's this nice person. He's Christian. He's nice. He's a good guy. He doesn't drink. He doesn't sleep around. And I think they tried to develop it more at the beginning of season 2 by having him having him try and like let go of some of his good guy nature, but ultimately that is who he is, and there just isn't very much growth around that. And
but now you're actually making me like him more. I'm like, oh wait, I want to see this. This isn't going to be the typical story of depravity. I'm interested in that.
So what does separate him, what does separate it very much from a show like Louis, is that he is a good person by all accounts. He's a nice person. He's a caring, thoughtful guy. He's not the tortured soul. He's not the tortured artist who's getting drunk and messed up and can only function, in that state. Whereas a lot of the comedians that he's interacting with are like that and are, very hard and mean, but funny. So maybe for that reason you would like it. I wasn't feeling like he was evolving enough.
Well, you guys have sold me on this show. Doesn't mean it's not worth watching.
Okay, but we need to move on because we have to finish soon, and we need to get to the most important show here.
All right, go for it.
I'm skipping the one you had in the middle. Just move on.
Okay.
Life
We'll
in Pieces. I had it on my and is this one of Jacqui's favorite shows and you get to work on the show? Or is it just one you work on?
I mean, I like the show. It's a great show, but I watch it because I work on it.
Oh, okay. Because you have it listed under Jacqui's favorite shows.
Well, look, I'm not the most perfect notes writer. By all means, go into the Google document and edit it at some point in the week before.
I watch Life in Pieces because it is hilarious.
So Jacqui, maybe you don't get appreciated 100% because you have to work on it. So that'd be like, it's your job.
Right. It's a different experience.
Right. But you just need to be rest assured that there are fans out there that think it is hilarious.
That's awesome. So glad.
Yes. And I just want to toot my own horn again in this episode because recently I said to Shy, it was recommended to me to a friend. I want to say my friend Amanda. So I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Amanda a long time ago who recommended to me after I had my kid. And she was like, you got to watch the show. You're going to laugh so hard. But there was no way because I live on like a deserted island somewhere. There's sometimes it's hard for me to get certain TV shows. So I actually wasn't able to see more than the pilot and just dropped it. And the other day I go to Shy, and then I eventually had picked it up when it came on Netflix. And the other day I go to Shy, you got to watch the show with Diane Weiss. It's called Life in Pieces. I think you're going to find it really funny. And then we stopped talking and whatever. Then he sends me a text message or to our group chat. And he's like, guys, Diane Weiss is like having a comeback. She must be on 2 shows because I started watching the show with her on it. It's so funny. It's called Life in Pieces. I wanted to take my phone and throw it out the window.
So hold on. As is tradition on the show.
Classic Shy.
As is tradition on the show. So Jacqui, we have a tradition. It's called I Told You shows. Have you heard about this?
I finally get one. It's always Becky that wins.
And if you convince someone else to watch a show, which, like, I'm going to give Lily this in terms of what's right in the universe, but the actual person who convinced me to watch this was Jacqui, so both of you. So Lily, you're going to have to share this. That's what I've decided.
Fair.
Both of you are going to get an I Told You show, and the thing that I have to do as a result of that is call you a genius. Jacqui, you're a genius. Lily, you're a genius.
Thank you.
Publicly. For turning me onto this show. One of the things that we talk about a lot on our podcast here is the joy of watching certain things with our mother. She is absolutely one of the funniest humans in the world. And when you watch something that makes her giggle so hard that she like cries and laughs at the same time.
No, she couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
She like had to she could not breathe because one of the funniest episodes I think I've ever seen of television, and I don't know if you actually edited that one episode, but it doesn't matter. Jacqui, we'll just pretend that you did. The Thanksgiving episode from season 1.
I literally lost my mind watching that. Like I
watched it twice.
I think we stopped breathing because we were laughing so hard.
That is the best feeling.
It was so, and just like, I think it probably was augmented by watching it with our mom. And what's so funny about Shy, he's like, these people are Jewish. And I think that's just like a funny old man thing to say. Like, you think everybody's Jewish. They're definitely not, because there's a Christmas episode later.
Yeah.
But
she talks about going to a bar mitzvah at one point.
Because she is Jewish
on
the
show. One of the characters
is
Jewish.
Colin Hanks, Zoe.
Oh, her character is Jewish because she has to be the most.
Yeah, Zoe Lister-Jones, who plays Jen.
Yeah, she's Jewish, but everybody else is not Jewish, and then they like do Christmas and stuff. But our family was just like cracking up because clearly it's like about farting, the episode, and what else can you do to get us to laugh hysterically? And that just I'm having so much fun with that show, and I highly recommend that episode to people.
So for anyone listening, the show is about 3 generations of a family, and I imagine editing and assistant editing on this show must be really interesting because each episode is divided into 4 vignettes about the family. They're somewhat interrelated, but not always, and they're always from the different perspectives of the different families. And so there's guaranteed in every episode something to connect to, whether you're a grandparent or a parent with teenagers or a parent with new kids, or the single brother. In some ways, I feel like this show is the parenthood that should have been a TV show. Like the movie Parenthood is really in this show and not in that depressing show Parenthood.
Right, exactly. Like the one that has a lot of fans, but it's like a more of like a serious drama as opposed to this, which reminds me more of the actual Parenthood movie.
So I will give this show another thing, which is Lily's other term that you coined, and that is showendipity, which this serendipity for shows when they come around at the right moment in your life. Earlier this year, I was in deep post-show depression about the ending of a couple of shows, and I just couldn't get happy again about new shows. And this show and The Middle both arrived and have warmed my heart in a way that I have something that I look forward to watching before I go to bed every night.
Oh, that's so nice.
Okay, let's go
now,
around.
if you meet anybody, like if you're hanging out with them, you could just let them know that we really like it. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Huge fans. Huge fans.
Yeah.
So rather than ask Jacqui for weird favors that will get her in trouble, we'll hint sort of more subtly. Let's hint more subtly. And Lily, who's your MVP of the show? So two separate things, / which of the 4 vignettes do you identify with the most? I suspect we all, or look forward to the most.
The vignettes always change.
Yeah, they're not always the same combos.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, there are different units in the show, though. There's the grandparents.
That's true, different.
I see what you...
There's the dude from Newsroom. There's the Colin Hanks, Zoe Lister-Jones family, and then there's the older family.
The older sister from Breaking Bad. The actress is from Breaking Bad.
So who's your MVP?
Betsy Brant.
Yeah, Betsy Brant. She's so funny. I think like she doesn't get enough credit because I've only seen her in those 2 things, but those characters are so wildly different.
She's really funny. She really deserves more credit for how funny she is. Yeah. But on that note, since Lily's taking forever to answer,
I think
Zoe Lister-Jones.
No, Zoe Lister.
Jen,
she's
the one that plays Colin Hanks' wife. That's my
She's
MVP.
the MVP.
100%. She's like
her delivery is hilarious.
That I look forward to watching, and the episode about the 2 of them with the newborn and trying to get some sleep. And him being arrested and her going like, oh, great, now you get to sleep. You always find a way to sleep. That is my life.
And literally, like, it's taken from real life because when he says to her, stop, why are you counting? It's not a competition, but I did it like last time I wrote it down.
My husband actually says that to me. He goes, stop counting, stop keeping score. And then, like, an hour later, I was up with her 3 times last night. And I'm like, oh, my God.
When he's like, don't keep score, don't keep track. And he's like, but just to let you know, I wrote it down. And last time I was up longer. And I just thought that was so funny. I love that. He's the part.
So I'm with you. My MVP is 100% Zoe Lister-Jones. That I'd never seen her in something before the show. She's absolutely hilarious, and there's definitely a Jewish thing. I assume she's Jewish.
She is.
I think so.
Yeah, she is.
But
in real life too,
or half Jewish.
I feel like everything that has to do with her is stuff that I identify with, either having experienced or seen through her eyes, and she's hilarious. I look forward to her moments the most. So she's my MVP. How about you, Jacqui? Do you want to, or do you just want to say you love everyone?
I think she's fantastic, and she's definitely the character that I feel I relate to most because I mean she's like hilarious and awesome, and obviously that's how I see myself. But I love her, but I also love Dan Bacadal who plays Tim. I think
I was just about to say that, and also he plays a lot of like creepy people on other stuff.
I'm still recalibrating, and I am almost there, but I'm recalibrating from watching him on Veep to watching.
Oh my God, I thought it was so funny on Veep.
So hilarious.
But he's so disgusting. It's like the worst.
We both came to the word disgusting simultaneously.
Yeah, he's disgusting on Veep.
And it's really hard to recalibrate with him as being this like goofy dad.
But I like how he is a bit kind of like gross by accident when he's like so gross with his kid's girlfriend Clementine. And he's just like so awkward, and he's always like, Clem. Like it's like so weird.
When he tries to be friends with her.
Like as if they're like cool friends. But I also again feel like there's an opportunity for somebody to be so different in a character when he's normally plays such a creep and everything else. Mm-hmm. So I think you're right.
And then I just want to also, I have been on the Colin Hanks bandwagon since seeing Orange County. I have been on the Colin, and I felt like he's never gotten his moment, and now I feel like he's safe. You have
always been on that bandwagon. I will give you that. It has been many, many years. You have been
at least once an episode. I have to say, like, my God, his dad is Tom Hanks. Every episode, I have to say, at some point during the episode, I'm like, guys, that's Tom Hanks's kid, people. And I'm like, you know how comfortable you have to be with yourself to put yourself on television?
He really stands on his own. He really stands on his own.
He does. And he's not trying to be his dad. And I respect that a lot.
They look
guys
so
just
much
being
alike.
himself. I know, but like, yet he's walking around being his son and just like being his own person. So
what we're saying is, Jackie, is that when we as we wrap this segment, that when you next see Zoe Lister-Jones, just give her a big hug for us. Tell her she's invited to all of our kids' bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs.
Yes.
And we feel like we went to Jewish summer camp with her. All right, as we get to we're going to wrap up now, and we will talk about, this is where we do our shout-outs and our what we are watching. Now, we talked a lot about what we were watching, so we'll just quickly go through if you have shout-outs or something you want to plug that people are watching. Lily, the people should watch. Lily, go for it.
I'm going to shout out to Bonsai Retro Club podcast, because I was listening to their Forrest Gump episode and I was talking back to them, and I feel like that's a really good sign of a good episode of a podcast when you interact with it by yourself. And they were talking about like their, the favorite character, the worst character, whatever. And I literally was like, oh my God, yeah, that guy's the worst. So I thought that was pretty funny. I was in a store while I was doing this, listening to them. So I was like, I got to mention that was a great episode. And shout out to Steph, because my friend Steph, I'm highly enjoying Catastrophe, which I was able to see while I was in the United States of America. It was on Amazon Prime and I was able to access it. And then I just want to say that I'm really enjoying my next guest. My next guest needs no introduction, with David Letterman on Netflix. Really, really enjoying the interviews that he's doing. He's only done 4 so far, and then Tina Fey is coming up. And I think they're very well done, the way the whole structure of the interview is. And it's like some part is pre-filmed with him going to the people, like some project of the person or their hometown or something, and then cuts back to interviews. And actually his interview with Jay-Z was fascinating.
Awesome.
So cool. Highly recommend.
All right, over to Beck.
I'm going to give a shout out to Cousin Vanessa, who I haven't seen now in about 3 weeks.
Can't do a show without talking about Cousin Vanessa.
Really, really excited for my reunion with Cousin Vanessa. Hey, girl. And I've been watching Chuck. I've been enjoying it. I'm going to report back when I finish season 1. But really, I've been listening to more Armchair Expert, and I've been loving it. The episode I listened to today was with Zach Braff, and it reminded me like how much we used to love Zach Braff. Remember that? Remember Scrubs?
JD for the until Adam F. Goldberg arrived on television. JD was my spirit animal on television.
So it was a great episode to listen to. I actually really enjoyed it, and it rekindled my love for Zach Braff.
He has a show currently on television. You could watch it.
Now I'm going to watch his new show and see what that's about. So
I think it's about a dad who quits his job to be a podcaster. So I'm like I'm kind of afraid.
Maybe you shouldn't watch it. Yeah.
It seems like
it's just
I have not quit my job, though, in case anyone's curious. This isn't a desperate call for help. Jackie, what about you? Anything you'd like to plug, or shows you're watching, or
oh my God,
friends' work?
I mean, we didn't get to talk about it, but if you haven't watched High Maintenance yet, you should. That's definitely one of my favorite shows. I just finished season 2. Oh. And I mean, am I supposed to do a shout out? I feel like so nervous now.
You can. Well, here, as we do our shout outs, we can come back to you to do it too. So I'll do my shout outs, then I'll give you a chance to give yours, because I kind of have a few.
Yes, go ahead.
I have some fun ones this week. Number 1, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Ashley, who was doing the Groundlings thing this last few weeks, and she had a performance the other night that I wish I could have gone to, and I bet it was amazing. So Ashley, if you're listening, you rock. She will one day be an amazing showrunner in Hollywood. I know it, and so does everybody else who knows her. She runs the Wendy McClendon Covey fan site and is one of the best parts of being part of the Gold Nerds family. So big shout out to her, and you can follow her online at Wendy MC fan site, and she also has other various places you can follow her, but that's where, if you're a Goldbergs fan, you should check her out. There is speaking of independent film, you mentioned independent stuff earlier. There's this director named Evie Marie Warner who is doing an Indiegogo funding campaign for program Detectives Inc. I've done an animation for one of her previous works, 15 Minutes I did an animation for, but this is their latest thing, so check out the Detective Inc.'s Indiegogo page and donate and support independent film. It seems like it's going to be a really cool program. I've been diving into a bunch of podcasts. We mentioned the Talent Crush chat show earlier. That one I highly recommend. I'm deep into the Janet Varney's JV Club. I know that has like 1 million fans, but I can't say enough nice stuff about that. There's this podcast that we listened to for a few minutes the other day altogether, but I keep listening to, and it's called Btch without a I in the bitch. And these comedians, Jack, you might appreciate it because it's actually LA based. It's comedians go to fitness classes and then they review them afterwards. And
amazing.
It's not.
I will listen to that. That sounds amazing.
It's really fun, and I don't even like working out, right? Like, there's nothing about this podcast that if you know me, you'd think, oh yeah, this is something that I should listen to.
I know because you pitched it, then it has to just be purely hilarious because you would never listen to a workout podcast.
Yeah, and so it's funny, but it's also kind of down to earth, and I don't know. I don't know anything that they're talking about. They talk about mirrors and yoga mats, and people who actually do these things probably will find it extra funny, but I really like it. And last but not least, this is a podcast that so I'm doing all podcast shout-outs this week, I guess. I stumbled onto this podcast called We Don't Know What We're Talking About, and it's done by these folks who call themselves the Pink Rabbit and the Purple Unicorn? I don't remember the other animal, but the Pink Rabbit is on Twitter, so I interact with her quite a lot. In any event, these two folks pick things out of a hat, and they pick a bunch of things out of a hat, and they just talk about them randomly.
Sure, because I looked up We Don't Know What We're Talking About, and it was just like these two bros talking about like.
No, this is not two bros.
And I was
this is two
there's
women.
no way Shai's listening to these two guys talking about how Villanova won. And I'm like,
No. This is two very
So
funny
confused.
women who love Weird Al and sci-fi movies and horror movies and 80s stuff, and they're really, really funny and really kind of down to earth, and that's a podcast where I find myself. I binged like 5 episodes in a row.
when I look it up, that.
I will send you the link. But anyways,
I got it. Pink Rabbit. Yeah. And Purple Dragon.
Purple
All right.
Dragon,
There's
that's
another one with the exact same title that's very bro-y, and I do not recommend.
Okay, well, don't listen to the bro-y one. Listen to the one with the two really funny women from, I think it's like Portland or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. In any event, that's a podcast where I find myself, I was talking out loud in the supermarket to it. Being like, let's talk about Spider-Man. So, all right, that's what we've got. Jackie, do you have any shout-outs now that we've listed pretty much everyone we know?
I mean, I'd love to say hi to my family, all my friends, especially my Phish friends, since it's so relevant. Shout out to WombChat. You guys name your chats too, right? That's a thing people do, right?
Yeah,
you mean on WhatsApp?
For sure.
You mean on WhatsApp
perfect.
chat? Oh,
Our
yeah.
family chat
Like
is
your
called
chat
Landed because our family chat is called Landed because one of us is always on a plane going somewhere. So it all started with us like alerting to everybody that we've landed and we're safe.
I
So
always
it's
wondered
called
if all
Landed.
families do that. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, ours does. And one of us is always like on the move. So it's like constantly like a bunch of like baby pictures and then someone just writes Landed and then a city. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so to your chats, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. You've been awesome. Where people should follow you on Twitter because you tweet about cool music stuff and and you're just generally cool. And so where can people follow you?
I'm on social media at Jacqui Kap, and you spell that JACQUIKAP. And I do tweet a lot about Phish, just a warning to Becky and Lily or anybody
that
else.
is okay. I just want to say as a disclaimer, I have had the privilege of Shai taking me to multiple Phish shows, especially New Year's Eve in Miami with my entire family. So like that was
awesome.
amazing. And like even my Spanish husband who knows nothing about Phish highly enjoyed it because you can't not like a concert like that.
I don't know.
Exactly.
My husband made me leave after the second set because he started to get super weirded out. He was like, "These people are crazy. We gotta go." He got like really freaked out by the scene.
Maybe he needs to come.
I'm gonna say the scene is a bit intense, but the music was great.
A lot
the
of
show
barefoot
was
people at this place, and they should not be barefoot. This is a place.
but that was super awesome
for sure. I have a feeling that we're all gonna end up at a Phish show together this year. Just wait for it.
Sounds pretty fun, and I highly recommend Jacqui the Man Center.
Yeah,
venue, because that's a very beautiful place. And I'm not gonna this might sound super lame, but Billy Breathes is one of my favorite albums ever.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, it's just I'll always go back to it.
This is wonderful, Lily. Phish was at the top of the show.
No, I'm just saying, I don't want her to think that even though
really
we talked about that ridiculous.
Lily's
she can't help herself. She's bringing it back.
I mean, no need to peer pressure.
No, but Lily,
I gotta go.
Okay, but Lily's also I really don't want Jacqui to leave and not like us. We do every once in a while.
She cannot like us, and I'm saying that you guys need to talk about.
Say goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Wait. All right, where can people follow you, Becky?
Everyday Oat. Everybody knows.
Everyday Oat for some recipes, and everyoat.com, and then on Twitter, Paper BK Princess.
And Lily.
And I've been upping my Twitter game, so you should follow me.
Your Twitter game is what do they say? On point? What do the young people say?
Fleek.
Yeah.
Shit.
It doesn't count if we don't know how to use it.
Lily, where can people follow you?
Chichi. I was about to say Chichi BK Gomez, but that's a combination of mine and Becky's, so that's not right. So just Chichi K Gomez on Twitter. I'm thinking about doing an Instagram. I don't know, guys. You've
got to do more. We're excited to see you do more stuff. You're a great photographer too, so.
I'm thinking that.
Cool. All right, you can follow me at Pancake4Table. That's the @ and Pancake and the number 4 and Table on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow the whole Pancake media empire at pancake4table.com. You can follow, if you just want the podcast, it's FridayNightMoviePod.com, and you can subscribe, and please leave us reviews. That really helps us. So has been explained to me for when people are searching for a fun podcast, it'll come up more often if people write a few words about us and give it lots of stars. As Lily says, leave us a 5-star review or don't leave one at all. Is that when you say something like that? You're like, if you're going to leave a nice one.
I say, yes, exactly. If you're not going to give us 5 stars, then don't leave a review.
It's a lot of effort to give us a bad review. So don't do that.
Yeah. And I also say to people, review us. And if you have time, listen to the podcast.
All right. And right now the music will kick in. The theme music by What Does It Eat will start, and everyone has to dance. Jacqui, we expect you to do.
All right, I'm dancing out of the room.
Okay, and Jacqui, you're doing a cool Phish dance.
Bye.
We know it.
I'm actually gonna hang up.
Bye, Beck. Love
Bye,
you.
Becky. And yeah, we'll dance it out.
Clearly where I was standing when they played Isabella. So that
is so cool. So I'm looking at it now.
So cool, but I'm totes about to interrupt.
Oh, that's my sister.
This is boring.
We should include the WhatsApp chat going on back and forth between me and Lily as you two geek out.
Oh, really?
This is the best conversation I've ever heard, but you need to stop talking.
I'm just naming all the legumes I can think of, all the lentils and beans.
It starts with Becky being like, Lily, you need to get on this call. Where are you? And I'm like, my Skype's not working. I can't get on. And she's like, hurry up. And then I'm like, I'm coming. And she's like, hurry up. And then I get on the call and I'm like, wait, I'm on the call, but I've already fallen asleep. And she's like, I know. You need to say something. And I'm like, this is if you got your friend Janine to come on and you guys just talked about vegan cooking. She's like, no, this is just as if Janine came on and we talked about legumes. And then she starts naming every single legume. I was like, God, I don't want to be a bitch, but I got to interrupt.
So Jacqui, the two of you are now officially inducted into my family. Because
thank you, and likewise.
Hello, Jacqui.
You have been.
Hello.
Because once you get a zinger from Lily, making fun of something you love, then that's it. That is love.